Last time on the Cleveland County Valentine podcast, we explore Aisha's life within her close-knit family, her school achievements, her bond with her brother O'Brien, and the warmth of her community connections. As we shift into the events of Sunday, February 13, 2000, Aisha's last full day, we see familiar routines unfold. The morning begins early with Harold and Iquilla Degree along with O'Brien, picking Aisha up from her Aunt Glenda's home just across the street where she had enjoyed a sleepover with her cousins the night before, a simple joy any 9-year-old would cherish. Outside, the day is cloaked in a heavy overcast sky with a thick blanket of fog and a steady drizzle, casting an eerie stillness over Shelby. The temperature lingers at a cold 36 degrees, a biting chill that seeps into every corner. As the day wears on, the forecast warns of worsening conditions, with showers and thunderstorms expected to roll in by the afternoon, temperatures rising to 52 degrees as the skies grow darker and more ominous. By nightfall, the storms are projected to intensify with relentless rain, thunder, and wind battering the Degrees neighborhood, creating an unsettling, almost foreboding atmosphere, a dark prelude to the mystery soon to unfold. Despite the gloomy weather, the Degrees continue with their plans for the day. By mid-morning, they head to Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church in Waco, North Carolina, about a 15-minute drive from Shelby, arriving for Sunday school at 9:30 a.m. Aisha sits quietly in the pews, surrounding by family and her church community, absorbing the words and teachings, a comforting ritual she knew so well. As we pause here, think about the church setting. It's a place of ritual, community, and faith. Aisha's family has deep roots in this church, attending weekly Bible study on Wednesdays and service on Sundays. Her bond to her church community is strong, making it all the more puzzling to consider that within hours she would venture out on her own in the dead of night, leaving all the security of family and faith behind. After the service, the Degree family makes their way to Aunt Florence Brown's house for lunch. It's a lively, welcoming place filled with the familiar sounds of family chattering and the laughter of children playing. Aisha spends the afternoon playing with dolls and her cousins. According to Joanne Jackson, Aisha's maternal grandmother, she seemed happy, beaming as she played and laughed. She also gave Aisha a small gift, a bottle of cologne and some Valentine's Day candy. Just imagine the simple joy of a small gift, a token of love that Aisha held on to, perhaps a bittersweet memory for her family now. By the time they return home, Aisha is exhausted. She falls asleep around 6 p.m., an unusually early time, but understandable given the excitement of the day and the sleepover the night before. But as evening draws in, so do the dark clouds. A storm begins to brew outside, bringing rain and flashes of lightning. Thunder rumbles through the neighborhood. For a child like Aisha, known to be fearful of both storms and the dark, this is no easy rest. She wakes, her fears stirred by the sounds of thunder shaking the home and the rain tapping against her bedroom window. Let's pause here to consider the effects of these fears. Children with Aisha's sensitivity to the dark and storms may have heightened anxiety. It's worth noting that many who investigate the case wonder how a little girl so fearful of the dark could venture out alone in the cold, early morning hours that follow. Was she compelled by something or perhaps someone greater than her fear? Small children are often afraid of thunderstorms because the loud noises, sudden flashes of lightning, and changes in atmosphere are unfamiliar and can feel overwhelming. The booming sound of thunder, especially when it's close, can be startling for children who don't yet understand what causes it, leading them to perceive it as a threat. Additionally, the darkness that often accompanies storms can amplify these fears, as many young children are already uncomfortable with the dark. When frightened, children often seek out familiar enclosed spaces where they feel safe, like hiding under a bed, in a closet, or curling up close to a parent. These small enclosed spaces give them a sense of control and protection. Beginning around 6:30 p.m., the Degree family gathers together in the living room to watch the NBA All-Star Game.
This is the 2000 NBA All-Star Game. Here's your host, Hannah Storm.
The Bay Bridge connecting San Francisco and Oakland. We are on the east side of the bay for the 49th annual NBA All-Star Game, the first of the new millennium.
As the game plays out, the night is interrupted again. Not by the storm this time, but by an unexpected power outage. Just before 9 p.m., a car collides with a power pole, knocking out electricity for much of Upper Cleveland County, including the Degrees neighborhood.
And Aquila lights candles in the house. No. An hour later, she sends the kids to bed.
Good night. Good night, sweetie.
By 11 o'clock, Aisha and O'Brien finally fall asleep. Aquila and her husband doze off while they wait for the power to be restored.
And I guess it was about like 12:15 when I heard the power kick back on. So I got up, blew out the candles, and for some reason I left that candle lit in their bedroom.
Aquila then turns in for bed.
Good night.
Harold stays up for another 2 hours, waiting for the kerosene heater to cool down.
According to the Shelby Star, a one-vehicle wreck on Powerhouse Road, just south of Lawndale, North Carolina, sent 3 people to the hospital and plunged much of Upper Cleveland into darkness Sunday night. Early reports indicated that 2 people were trapped in a vehicle, and emergency workers first on the scene made an urgent call for a 3rd ambulance. Fallston Community Volunteer Fire Department was among several departments responding. Fallston firefighter Grady McDaniel said the vehicle apparently crashed into a pole carrying a power feeder line. Other details of the crash being investigated by Trooper J.H. Smart with the North Carolina Highway Patrol were not available by press time. Identities and conditions of the occupants also were not known at the time. Bank alarms blared, traffic lights went dark, and law enforcement scrambled to respond and prevent serious problems when the power went out in Lawndale, Hopeville, Fallston, Waco, and South Cherryville just before 9 p.m. A Duke Power substation, which serves a wide band through the center of the county, is located on Powerhouse Road. Thousands of customers of Duke Power and Rutherford Electric membership, which buys electricity from Duke, were also affected. The outage stretched from Polkville to Cherryville and across the north shore of Moss Lake, according to Chip Lane, who lives on the north end of the lake. Most of the street lights in Fallston were out, but just north of the main intersection, electricity flowed as usual. The fire department operated with a generator, but it was dark out Fallston-Waco Road and down North Carolina 18 to NC 180 in Shelby, McDaniel said. With no lights or modern distractions, the Degrees make do in the dark. According to Aquila, her brother and sister-in-law, who lived just across the street, stopped by to discuss the outage and pass the time. The children are instructed to prepare for bed, though they won't be taking baths that night due to the lack of power.
NBA All-Star Weekend, last year Michael Jordan played actually, and we was sitting there watching the game, and right when it was in the first quarter, all the power went out. My brother-in-law came home, and he told us it was a bad wreck because my mother-in-law stayed across the road, and that's what caused the power to go out. Sister-in-law came across the road, and me and her and the kids sit there talking and looked up, and then I had my watch on, and I realized it was about 9:30. And I told them, I said, well, y'all need to get ready to go to bed. I said, so they went put their clothes on, and I ain't even sleeping. They just lay there. You'll eventually go to sleep. So I just laid on the couch because nothing else to do, no lights on and nothing. But I did doze off to sleep. And when I woke up, I guess it was about midnight because the power kicked back on and the lights was on. They scared me because it made a big thump. And it was a power jolt. And that's how I know it's about 12 o'clock.
The power outage throws a curve into the Degree's normal routine. Aquila and Harold use their kerosene heater to keep the living area warm in the cold and damp February night. This seemingly small detail of Harold and Aquila sitting together by the kerosene heater to fight the chill adds to the haunting image of the last evening the Degrees would spend together before everything changed. Reflecting on this scene, there's an eerie calm. The darkness, the storm, and the quiet moments by the heater all contribute to a sense of isolation, setting the stage for the mystery soon to unfold. Imagine Aisha sitting in this dimly lit room, hearing the murmur of adult voices, maybe feeling uneasy but also safe within her family's presence. At around 11:30 p.m., Harold decides to go out to pick up Valentine's Day candy, a late-night errand that seems curious, but it is a detail confirmed by various sources, including Good Morning America.
It was February 13th, the year 2000, a stormy Sunday night. Aisha and her 10-year-old brother go to bed in the small room they share. About 11:30, Aisha's father, Harold, says he goes out to buy Valentine's Day candy. When he comes home, he watches TV, checks in on the children, and goes to bed around 2:30.
Both Harold and Aquila had arranged to take Valentine's Day off, giving them plenty of time the next day to celebrate their anniversary or buy any last-minute items. With a full day available, it seems unlikely that Harold would feel an urgency to go out late at night, especially given the cold, rainy weather. Additionally, by the time he left, most stores in Shelby would have likely been closed, limiting his options to maybe gas stations or convenience stores, which wouldn't be ideal for finding an anniversary gift. Some local reports have indicated that the only stores open that late would have been in either Hickory or Morganton, each approximately an hour's drive from Shelby. By 12:30 a.m., the power is restored, bringing the familiar hum of electricity back to the Degree household. According to the Shelby Star, on February 15, 2000, Harold Degree observed Aisha still awake at this time, lying on the couch in jeans and a purple and white t-shirt reading "Sun Degrees Hot in Atlanta." He told her it was time for bed, and she went to the bedroom she shared with her brother O'Brien. Harold reported that later he checked on Aisha around 12:30 a.m., finding her asleep in her bed. It's possible that she had changed into a white nightgown with red trim and a teddy bear on the front. However, there's an element of uncertainty regarding the exact timeline due to the power outage that occurred earlier in the evening. When the power came back on, it's unclear if the household clocks were all reset accurately, leaving room for possible discrepancies in the reported times. For example, if the clocks were off by even 10 to 15 minutes, it could shift the timeline of events, altering when Harold checked on Aisha or when she might have fallen asleep. This discrepancy could be significant because in cases of missing persons, even small gaps in the timeline can hold crucial clues. This moment remains critical. A final sighting by her father, seeing her safe and sound in her bed. There's something deeply unsettling in knowing that this is the last time Harold would see his daughter lying in her bed. The security of home, of a father's gaze, becomes a heartbreaking juxtaposition to what would happen only hours later. As the house quiets down, Harold finally turns in around 2:30 a.m., unaware that this ordinary night will soon be marked by loss. In these silent hours, as the family sleeps, a plan seems to be set in motion. What could have stirred Aisha to leave, to step into the darkness alone? Thank you for listening to this episode of Cleveland County Valentine. If you haven't already, please like and follow us on Facebook or leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I would also like to encourage anyone who knows anything at all about Aisha's disappearance to come forward and share what you know. I want this podcast to be an outlet for people surrounding this case. Have yourself a great rest of the week and join us next time for a new episode of Cleveland County Valentine.